Okay. Today we're going to start Memches Amud Aleph. I think Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. It's because of learning Hashem the basic English. Remind me when it's the time. Stop drinking.
Some say 44, 45. The chat, the basic language test is 46. 6. Extra minute.
What's up?
I'm now on the overdrive. I haven't slept, so crash soon.
Okay, you see where it says Hahi Itza?
Wow. The traffic was really bad.
Hahi Itza. That's where we'll start. I don't know how many lines it's from the top. It's about 15 lines from the top.
How many?
8.
Okay. Hahi Itza the Ulsa. The Meifa Bahu Besa. There was a woman that she went to bake bread in someone's house. So I guess the people didn't have their own ovens. Years ago, they would have only the bakery had an oven. So the cholent, and they would put the cholent in the bakery oven. Yeah, I remember my grandmother was telling me about how they would end up with her yahrzeit actually is sometime around Sunday maybe, no Shabbos. So they would end up with different cholents because everyone would put their pot in the bakery. They would take home like the pot. Okay, so the oven was in this guy's house. Asabarcha, the Mari Beisach Lalisha. A goat came from the owner of the house, and he ate the dough.
Barcha is a goat.
As a goat, yeah. So Chavel, he got a fever, and he died. He probably just got drunk, from the alcohol in the fermentation in the dough. Well, anyway, Rava said that the woman has to pay for the goat. We don't get drunk from bread because the alcohol evaporates, but you eat the dough. That's why people get their stomach bothers them when they eat dough. Gemara says, Rav. Looks like he argues on Rav because Rav, his comment yesterday was that you can't blame the woman for the goat eating. Blame it on the goat. The goat shouldn't have eaten. Rav. Rav says it shouldn't have eaten. Amri said, the Gemara says, 1 second. Hachi hashta. That's like, hold it. Hasam, over there, shalei b'shos, like Kibbalan and Terusa. Over there was no permission to bring in the food into the place. No permission. Person doesn't accept any responsibility. Over there, the case was he brought his fruits into the courtyard of this person and caused damage. The person with the fruits has to pay for it. But that was only if the damage was because he slipped in it. But if the damage was because he ate it, and he doesn't have to pay. The reason is because he says it's his fault for eating. So, yeah. So we say that if he doesn't have permission, the owner takes no responsibility. But Hacha Bershus over here, he does have the woman does have permission to go in. So Kabbalah and the Tirusa. So why does the woman have to pay? If she has permission, then he should pay. Okay, so the Gemara asks on this. Let's see. The Gemara says Isha shenichtas alitchen chitin etzel balabais lebeshus v'achaltan behemtan v'achlasan behemtan shel balabais pater b'mhuska chayaves. He had exactly the opposite story when the woman went in to grind the wheat. But we said over there that if the animal eats the wheat, then she has to pay.
The balabais is potter.
Balabais is potter for the damage, but if it causes damage to the animal, then the woman has to pay. And the reason why, just 1 second, the reason is time of b'shus. The reason is because she didn't have permission. Habershus patura. But if she did have permission, then she wouldn't have to pay. So by the grinding of the wheat, we said she didn't have to pay. Over here, she says that over here we say that she does have to pay when it's by the baking of the bread. So the Gemara gives a simple answer. Says Amri litchen chitim. When it comes to the grinding of the wheat, given like bites in the Yusamidi, since she doesn't have to do any activity. So lebai mesalke marvasad the chatzer nafshayo valedide raminetirusa. So then the owner doesn't have to leave because she's not doing any work. So there's no problem. The owner stays there and he watches his animal to make sure that it doesn't eat and doesn't get damaged. But when it comes to baking bread, given the bayit's nusa, since she has to put her hands in the dough and she has to roll up her sleeves. So because of it's not modest for the man to hang around. So then so because he has to leave, so the whole responsibility ends up just on the woman, and that's why she has to pay. It's sort of like, okay, I'm out of here.
Force the situation.
I'm out of here. The owner says, so therefore the responsibility is on the woman. Yeah.
1 more minute.
Oh, 1 more minute.
That's true.
Oh.
That's true.
Okay.
You got the picture?
I'm not.
What do we do?
Yeah, not gonna ask any questions.
What did the
Rabbi?
woman do that was wrong?
I'm sorry?
What did the woman do that was wrong?
She allowed the animal to eat from her dough.
From her dough.
Did she allow?
Yeah, she wasn't protecting the
watching.
animal from. She wasn't protecting her dough from.
What if she had a bathroom?
She would have to be careful. She would have to lock it up before she goes. Yeah.
So it's a place where either the dough or the animal really didn't belong, you think?
Right. Well, the animal belonged to the owner. The dough belonged to the woman. They were both allowed to be there. But her responsibility was because the owner can't be there when she's there. Yeah, in another case, the owner could be there when she's there. So that's why the responsibility didn't fall on the woman.
Mhm.
Does she accept the responsibility upon herself of guarding?
Rabbi?
Like that came included.
And she got permission from the homeowner.
She also took on the guarding.
Yeah, that makes sense. When she gets permission, she also takes on the guarding. She accepted upon herself the responsibility of guarding the homeowner's animals from damage, just cannot claim that it should not have been eaten. Okay, then it asks, but what about by the grinding of the wheat? She didn't do that. That's because the homeowner was there. Okay. The Gemara really waits for the end to give you the main point. Okay.
No way.
Oh, good. Let's go further. Hichnes Shoyrei Lechatzer Balabayas. Let's say someone brings his ox. This was one of the cases in the Mishnah. Someone brings his ox into the courtyard of the homeowner. Rava says regarding this, if he doesn't have permission to bring his ox in, excuse me. And thank you. And it dug in the courtyard pits. It dug holes in the courtyard. So Balashar Chayiv B'Niskei Chatzar. It wasn't supposed to be there anyway. So any damage that this animal causes is going to be the obligation of the owner of the animal.
Right.
It's causing damage to the courtyard. Bal Chatzar Chayiv B'Niskei Abar. Now the interesting thing is that if the homeowner then says that my property is ownerless, and whoever wants to come in here can come in here, he like opens up his property to the public. So then people come in, and now there were pits in there that were dug by that animal. So now the homeowner takes responsibility for the pits because he just opened it up to the public. It has these possible.
What's that to do? Why? I mean, if he had guests over,
Our guest. That's what it means. Same thing.
Yeah.
Basically, it's open. It's open to the public. Yeah. Once he opens it to the public, then he's going to be chayiv on a bar. Gemara says, one second. Maybe he shouldn't be chayiv on the bar. Pasuk says that if a man digs a pit, and we have an exclusion over there, but not if an animal digs a pit. Said if an animal digs a pit in a public area, so then the owner does not have to pay for the damages. And over here, we're telling me that an animal dug a pit in a which later becomes a public area, and he does have to pay for the damages. So Gemara says, there's a big difference. Over there, the animal dug a pit in a public area. Over here, the animal dug a pit in a private area, and then he makes it public. So before he makes it public, he has to make sure that there's no possibility for damages.
It's a modern problem. They open up the farm tourism. People come, but if they get hurt, they sue the guy.
Right.
So no farmer wants any tourists on his land. So the state comes in and gives him insurance. If there's any accidents, the state will cover it. So if he gets his tourists get to walk and pet the sheep, and if they fall in the pit, the state will pay. Because otherwise the farmer would have.
Wow.
It opened up a whole industry for farmers to have people on their land without fear of being sued out.
We could say enter at your own risk.
You got the new
Say
reminder?
enter at your own risk.
Okay. I have to move on.
Does that work? If you have a sign, enter under your own risk.
Otherwise, they won't let us stay out.
No, but I think if you have a sign that says enter at your own risk, I think people can still sue. No?
I'm not sure that they use that a lot, like in mechanic places, that all do not enter.
And then meanwhile, they talk to you. You want this tire, you want that tire, and meanwhile they're like, you want me to follow the sign or you want me to follow you?
And it's also used like in yards. People put the dogs, or they beware of dogs. Now, if that sign is not there, and somebody happens to go and gets bit by a dog, I guess it's a factual issue.
So the sign.
I have a big coconut tree, and I saw a sign that said, beware of coconuts can cause big dent in the head. Anyway, I was going to put the sign up. There's this lawyer that walks his dog on my house. I said, what do you think? He said, I wouldn't put the sign up. He said, you don't want to show that you have any awareness of like the potential danger or something. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, your coconut falls in the public domain.
If it falls over the fence, yeah.
And that's your responsibility, or
Probably. Anyway, I try to keep it trim. Amar Rava. Rava says, a bit Amar Rava. Rava also says, if someone brings this ox into the courtyard of the homeowner without permission, and then ox goes and damages, not only is it not supposed to be there, but it goes and damages the homeowner. Or the balabais gets damaged by it, maybe tripped on it or something. Then chayev. Rabat, then this we're talking about the owner of the ox has obligated to pay for the damage. Rabat is pater. What happened?
First of all, did you get the picture when the women were leaving Kala?
No. Is that on the thing?
5:30.
Oh.
Yes.
No, that's the point. That's the whole reason the man wasn't there, because women, when they make challah, will roll up their sleeves.
Right.
That's right.
That's what we said.
So I have, yeah, but I sent the picture when I was a teenager. My grandmother would make challah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, with my
For those
mom,
who do.
and they both have their sleeves rolled up.
Uh-huh.
It's an old picture from the
Uh-huh.
70s. So I just
Wow.
want to show.
How do you find
You
it?
should around the 19th.
Where's Elvis?
If you're worried about a 70s picture of two older ladies, anyway,
Like this 90s.
rest in peace. The second thing
Please
is,
do not look at Dr.
as
Scientific
usual,
University.
or as every once in a while, I'm the one responsible that the gate doesn't open, because when I touch it, for some reason, I'm driving my black truck. It shorts out the system.
Wow.
Just put that down for a second. So it shorted out, so I couldn't park. All right. So I backed up into the spot that the cops usually are. So as I back up and I then run out of the car, he pulls up. It's a new cop. I didn't realize my jacket wasn't closed and something was showing that wasn't supposed to be showing.
no.
So he looks at me and goes, "Officer, do you want this spot or do you want the one over there?" He says, "I can park another way." He says, I said, "No, you can have whichever one you want." So he thought he was an undercover cop.
Yeah,
No way.
you are now.
You're gonna look with a mustache. I mean, a mustache.
I'm
is
really,
a cop.
it just happened. It's like,
Only a
I
mustache. Only a
said,
cop
I
is a
can't
mustache.
believe
I
you
can't
called
show you
me
my badge.
officer.
It's very undercover.
Yeah, that course came in handy. All those ride-alongs.
Okay, now you're wasting time. Let's go.
What was being shown? Did you see?
No, that's.
Dr. Shen is a record for ride-alongs.
Something
Rav-
that they're
Family
not allowed
share,
to see.
ride along.
Says Rav-
72 ride-alongs.
Ravatz
yeah,
is
with
butter.
cops.
Ravatz, if it sits down, it's butter. The Gemara says, Mishum de Ravatz butter. Talking about that we think that the animal sat down and broke vessels. And then, or maybe it sat down and the owner tripped on it. So why should it be putted? It wasn't supposed to be there at all. Amarav Papa, my Ravatz. What does it mean, Ravatz? Shehir bits glolim, benitfenu, kalev shal balabayas, tavik glolim bar, v'lemetzina bar shachai bayas asakelim. It's not what you thought it was. It's what it means over here is that it relieved itself, and the owner got dirty from the owner's clothing got dirty from the manure. So why is he exempt? He's exempt because the manure that's on the floor becomes a bar. A bar is only chayev shar v'lo yadam chamar v'lo kelim. It's only chayev on either an ox or a donkey, but not a person, not the death of a person, and not the death of vessels. Death of vessels means if they get ruined. So over here, the vessels are getting ruined. He's going to be exempt from paying that. Okay, the Gemara says Hanichal Shmuel. Basically, what we just established there is that the owner of the ox is going to be responsible for any damages he causes, except if it turns into a bar, which damages kalim. Okay, it's an old halacha. We knew that from before. But the Gemara says Hanichal Shmuel. That's only according to Shmuel, because there's a machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. If the person owns the object, the obstacle that's on the floor, according to Shmuel, that was considered a bar. According to Rav, that was considered a shar. It's considered an ox. So why is it going to be exempt? According to Rav, that says that you own it. If you own it, then it's not considered a bar. It's not considered a pit. It's considered your property that's causing damage and going to be responsible. It doesn't matter if it's kalim, if it's the person's utensils. But it says Amri, they say stam galalam afkurim afkudo. He probably is making ownerless the manure. I read that book, Go My Son. You ever read that book?
Yeah.
Go, my son.
Go My Son. It was about this guy. Well,
But a 19-year-old.
the part that I remember in it is about manure, but it was about this guy that
A 19-year-old kid who went to the house.
no, it's about this kid in the Holocaust. He ends up in the mountains, like Kazakhstan mountains, during the war. And Chaim Shapir, I think his name was. Anyway, one of the problems over there in the mountains was mosquitoes. So they literally couldn't sleep. And the only way to sleep was, I think they would take manure, they would dry it out, and they would light it on fire, like next to where they were sleeping. And that smell would keep the mosquitoes away. So it was so severe, the mosquito problem, that he wasn't able to sleep. He tried stealing someone the minute, because you could steal it because people had to leave it out to dry. So he would take it, but then someone he was stealing. He heard someone like fixing his gun, like something, because he heard someone there. So it was frightening, it's like he ran away.
That's what's good about a pump shotgun. You never have, a lot of times you don't have to shoot. The person just hears the pump and they take off. There's a guy in Shul here told the story when he hit his big knock on the door and he thought people were breaking in, and he pumped, and it turned out there were two cops outside. And, so he met.
It didn't work too well.
No, it was like he was defending his house. They said to him, police, don't shoot, don't. But the noise is
Right.
scary.
Okay. Va'amar Rava. And Rava says, Nichnas l'chatzer balabayas. I believe that now we're shifting, instead of the animal coming in, I think we have a person that's coming in. Nichnas l'chatzer balabayas shleibishas. That's what it looks like. Does it say it in the English that it's a person? Because in the past it kept saying hichnis shoyrei, hichnis shoyrei. Now it says nichnas. I think nichnas would mean the person.
Right.
The person enters into the courtyard of a balabayas shleibishas without permission. The hizikas balabayas, and he damages the homeowner. This is a home invasion. A balabayas or the homeowner gets damaged by him, like trips on him or something. Then chayiv. Hiziku balabayas. If the balabayas damages him, then he's going to be pater. Talking about the balabayas damages the intruder. Amar Rav Papa says he's only going to be pater. That's only if he damaged him by mistake. Aval have a yadabe. If he knows that he's there, he's balabayas chayiv. Then he's going to be chayiv. This we were talking about yesterday. If someone shoots an intruder, that the guy can sue. According to Rav Papa, the guy can sue. According to Rav Papa, the guy can sue. He would have to say that I didn't see the guy there. I was just doing target practice, and the guy happened to walk. If you do that in your own house.
He's dead.
Yeah, but the family or injuries or whatever.
The whole thing here is that you feared for your life.
So my time, what's the reason? Because he could tell him, okay, I know you have permission to kick me out, but you don't have permission to harm me.
I only came to rob your house. Give me a break.
Okay, now when there is a fear that he may end up killing the person, then you have a different story, because unless it's a father that's breaking into his son's house, remember how it worked in Zarchal of Shemesh, if it's so clear that it's like otherwise. But if there's no fear of this, so then one of the restaurants my father worked in New York, they kept all their stuff in the basement. So anyway, there was a bar that went across like the stairs on your way down or on your way up, like basically like bang, just a bar, right? They were there just for intruder, people that were stealing. They were just like knocking.
Another one got it. Drag him out.
It was straight, there was no way of seeing it. It was like right across the steps. Like anyway.
Think what the robbers said.
The Gemara says that this Rav Papa's statement, Rava and Rav Papa's statement, this actually follows another statement. Rava, Rav Papa. You see, Rav Papa is a student of Rava. So Rava says in the name of, or Rava says, and some say it's Rav Papa said, because they were so close that some of our statements we have are, we're not sure if it's Rava who said it or Rav Papa said it. So that's very common. Rava, v'itema Rav Papa. Rava, v'itema Rav Papa. It's very common that the Gemara says that because of that. The example I give for this is Rabbi Chadakov in the Rebbe. Rabbi Chadakov would tell people things, and people didn't know, is this Rabbi Chadakov or is this coming from the Rebbe? So that was how that's like this. That's Rava v'itema Rav Papa. It was a little bit unclear, like where it was, what the source is. It says Shneim b'shus, if two people have permission to be there, or Shneim shlei b'shus, or they don't have permission to be there. We're talking about either it's a public property or it's a Chatzar Ashutrim, a property of partners. So then Hiziku Zeh, if they cause damage to each other and they both have permission to be there, then Chayavim. Then they're going to be Chayav to pay for the damages. If two people are running, it's talking about when they're doing something that they shouldn't be, even though they have permission to be there. If they damage each other, they have to pay for each for those damages, each one. Now, there's no difference between this one damaging this one that. But let's say it was an accident, and like one of them tripped over the other one or something. It wasn't a direct damage. So then they're going to be exempt because they both were allowed to be there. Time of the the reason why there's going to be an obligation, or there's no obligation, and basically that the obligations are equal. That's because they both had the same permission to be there. But let's say it wasn't like that. Let's say one of them was allowed to be there, for example, he's the balabayas. The other one was not allowed to be there. He's the intruder. So the Bershus is pater. The balabayas is going to be pater. But he's only going to be pater, we're adding in this detail, he's only going to be pater if he didn't know that he was doing the damage directly. Shlei Bershus, but if the one that doesn't have permission to be there is going to be chayav. We're saying that that's following what Rav and Rav Papa were saying, that if the owner causes damage to the intruder, he's going to be exempt, and Rav Papa adds in only if he doesn't know that he's causing that damage. If he knows, if it's intentional damage, that's a problem.
Here it says Rashi said, provided he is unaware of the other's presence.
Right, which would mean that it's unintentional damage. Yeah. That's the idea. Rashi adds that in, but the idea is that it was unintentional.
This would change it.
Yeah, that would change. Nafalabar v'hivish meim of chayav. We mentioned if someone's animal goes into this property which is not supposed to be there, and then he falls into a pit and he ruins the water, then he's going to be chayav to pay for that water. That would only be if he ruins the water as he's falling in. But after it falls in, and then the animal dies, let's say the animal was very smelly. The sheep or something, they pick up all the grime. And the animal fell into the pit. Now you can't drink the water. So as it fell in, that's what happened. But let's say the animal was a clean animal, but it died in the pit. And now after it dies, it starts to smell, and it's all of this, and then it ruins the water. So avalach and afila, then he's going to be pater. My timer, what's the reason?
Wait.
You have to follow this.
It's sequential. So you mean if a dirty animal falls in,
he's going to be chayav?
But then the next day he's pater?
No.
So the guy shows up on day 3 and says,
he's chayav for all the water because of the damage that he caused on the first day, or right when he fell in. A day later, if the water is still good for that day, and then a day later the animal dies and the water is bad, then he doesn't have to pay for that water.
So it depends when
the damage. My timer. You got to follow this. This is like really interesting logic. What's the reason for this? Havishar bar umayim kalim. The water, you would have assumed that the water is the pit, and the ox is what's falling into the pit. Flips it around. The ox is now the pit. The water is falling into the pit. The ox is the pit because it's causing damage after it's been left there. Mm-hmm. It's like an obstacle on the floor. It's now damaging. What's it damaging? The water. So it's like the water is falling into the pit. The water is considered a vessel, gets ruined, and the ox is considered the pit. It's an obstacle, it's causing damage. We're calling the water utensil, a vessel. So, and we don't find that a pit is obligated to pay, that the owner of the pit is obligated to pay for damaged vessels. Gemara says, this is only according to Shmuel that says that every obstacle is considered a bar. But according to Rav, that says you have to make it ownerless. So maybe it's considered his property that's causing damage. It's not considered a pit that's causing damage. And if it's his property, then he has to pay even if it's vessels. So you're right. According to this, we have to readjust this statement. Amar Rava says, only if it damages because damages the water because its body was dirty. But if it damages from the smell of the spoiled animal that died, and he's gonna the carcass putter. My time, what's the reason? Grama ba'almahu. That's just causing a damage for grama ba'alma le'mechayev. It's not chayev for causing damage. It's not chayev if it's not indirect damage. It has to be direct damage.
If the animal falls in initially, it makes it dirty. He said that
It's chayev.
he's had. Let's say all of a sudden there's a torrential rain in one day, flash flood, cleans the pit. Guy comes to pay the next day, but it's already clean. It was dirty, it got clean before he even paid, because it's still higher. You know, it's like the mikvah where the thing came in, but yardu geshamim, and now the mikvah is okay again. So is the chiyuv still existing? My legal counsel, what do you think?
I think we had a Gemara similar to that, where there was an ox, of course another ox, and it got worth less. By the time they show up in court, it's worth double the price. The carcass is worth double the price. So we said that he still has to pay for the damage, because if it not for that damage, it would have been worth even more. It would have been worth double what the double. It would have been alive. So we said you can't say that there was no damage because the following day it's higher than what it was yesterday. Because if not for the damage, it would have been even more. So I assume if it wouldn't have caused the first problem, then you would have had even more water that you could use.
No, can't go higher than sea level.
Then maybe it doesn't have to pay.
Can
I don't
it?
know.
Or if it's damned, Professor, right? If it's damned,
On
you
vacation.
can.
I'm
What?
on vacation.
It's on vacation.
I'm on vacation.
It's not. It
You didn't
doesn't.
pay your bill.
I
Ooh,
didn't pay my bill.
he's not paying anybody today.
It's an auto pay.
Oh, boy.
Auto pay.
Oh yeah,
Do you owe me money also?
Let's say there was a person in the pit, right? There was the father or the son of the owner was in the pit when the animal fell in. We said that the owner of the animal has to pay kaifer, has to pay the penalty for killing someone. This is when does this apply? Only by a muad. Okay. Gemara asks, "Samai hatamhu." What's going on over here? It's a tam. We're not going to say. How did we answer it before? How do you ever get a muad? So we said it had to run away to the field or whatever. It says it can't run away. It's stuck in a pit. You're the guy that took it out of the pit. It had to fall in 3 times. How could it have run away if it killed 3 times in the people in the pit? So it's a tam. Amarav Rav says, we're talking about that it does this all the time. Does this all the time. The Gemara says, Yachi bar katalahu. So why didn't you kill it the first time? Right? If it kills a person, you're supposed to kill the animal. So Amarav Yosef Techaza Yeruka Benafal. It saw vegetables and it came to eat the vegetables and it slipped in. Why does he have to pay? Why does he have to pay? Oh, because we're going to say over here, it's talking about regel. If it would be keren, then it needs to have intention. But over here, he has to pay because it's regel and it killed while it was either maybe it was kavanasa, it was hana, either it had benefit, had enjoyment from eating the grass, and that's how it ended up killing. So that would be a case of kaifer. Shmuel Amar Hamani Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Shmuel has another solution. He says, we're talking about a case, we're trying to figure out what the scenario here is because we think it's a tam. So Shmuel says, oh, that's not a problem. It's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Yossi Aglili held Damar Kir Reb Tarfon, Damar Karen B'chatzar Nezik Shalom Mishalim, Achanami Kaifer Shalom Mishalim. It's, oh, did I just skip? I skipped. The Matam Shalom Chatzi Kaifer, I skipped. First, Shmuel says it's Rabbi Yossi Aglili, it says tam pays Chatzi Kaifer. That's Rabbi Yossi Aglili's opinion. Ula Amar Rabbi Yossi Aglili Damakar Reb Tarfon Damakan B'chatzar Nezik Shalom Mishalim Achanami Kaifer Shalom Mishalim. Ula says not only is it Rabbi Yossi Aglili that says that a tam pays Chatzi Kaifer, but it's Rabbi Yossi Aglili following Reb Tarfon that says that keren, that's a tam, that it only pays half payment only in a public property, but if it's in the Chatzar Nizik, you have to pay full. So now it's a tam paying full price because it's a tam pays half kaifer. In a Chatzar Nizik, will pay full kaifer. Bishleim Malula, yeah.
classified as a tam, it has a footnote that says that since it's unusual for an ox to kill a person by following.
Right, right. We're saying a tam. Another explanation for a tam is that anything that's not usual, because you only have a tam by keren. By keren means of course with the horn. Now anything usual is automatically a muad, because that's regel or shame, so it's automatic. So you only have the tam by the unusual. This is unusual behavior. It's a tam, unless it does it 3 times, then it would become usual. If it did it 3 times, then we said, but then why didn't you kill it the first time? So that was our problem.
How would you kill it the first time if you don't know if it didn't do the additional?
No, anytime it kills a person, you always kill the animal.
Yeah, but it was by mistake. Like it fell into the thing.
No, but you would still kill the animal.
It's killed, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the reason why Hillel is asking this question, but why do you kill the animal if it didn't do it on purpose? We had a Gemara before that only if it does it on purpose, the way if it's done on purpose, then you would kill the animal. Remember we had this, and then if you don't kill the animal, then there's no kaifer. What we're saying here is that that's only by keren. You have to have kavanas lahasik, but when it's regel, it doesn't have to have intention to cause damage. Yeah, that's this big Rashi over here that spells it out. Very good. It's a good point. Okay. Yeah, we need a trophy over there. A coconut water. So, the Gemara says, what it means, and when it says if the father or the son is inside it. Why? Because we're talking about Chatzar Nizik. We want it to be the courtyard of the owner. The damage is in the courtyard of the owner to pay. But according to Shmuel, why do you have to say it's the father and son of Filachanam? It could be anyone in the pit. So someone jumping in to go to the mikveh doesn't have to be the owner of that. Says, well, that's not a question. Who's probably in the pit is probably the owner, right? Not someone else. Okay. You have permission to enter Bal Chatzar Chayev. This was the opinion of Rebbe. Rebbe said, I'm sorry, that's the opinion of the Rabbanan. If you have permission, then the Rabbanan hold that means that you're also taking on the responsibility. The owner is taking the responsibility to make sure that it doesn't get harmed. Rebbe, on the other hand, argues on this. That's the chulu, etc., and says that until the owner actually says, "I'm taking that responsibility," he's not taking any responsibility. It's Mar. We have a statement. Rav Amar Hilchas Katana Kamma. Rav says Allah is like the Tana Kamma, which says that he automatically accepts responsibility once he says that the person can enter. Shmuel says Hilchas like a Rebbe. The Allah is like Rebbe. The person doesn't accept responsibility unless he says so clearly. Taisus over here points out that there's a problematic conclusion, because usually we would say that the Allah is like Shmuel. You know, whenever there's a machlekes Rav and Shmuel, when it comes to ritual law, the halach is like Rav. When it comes to monetary law, right, damages and that type of thing, we pass like Shmuel. So we would say, according to this, that the halach is like Rebbe. The problem is we have Rava that was saying before that the person is, if there's permission, then he's going to be all the cases of Rava. That if there was permission, there was going to be the person that's going to switch the responsibility, and we never added in permission, meaning that the person is actually accepting full responsibility. We assume that Rava was following the Tana Kamma, so it comes out there's a contradiction here. Looks like a little problem. Okay, Tana Rabbanan was taught in a brisa. Let's say the owner says, "Kanai sharcho shmari." Yeah, come inside. Bring your ox in. Just make sure you watch it. Yeah. Hizik, then it caused damage. It's chayev. He was supposed to be watching his ox. Huzak, if it gets damaged, then pater. The balabayas is pater because he said, just make sure you watch your ox. It was clear about that. So I'm not taking any responsibility. Let's see, he says, "Can I shark have any yashmana?" Yeah, no problem. Come inside. I'll watch it. Huzak chayev. If it gets damaged, then it's going to be huzak. If he causes damage, no huzak. If it gets damaged, then chayev. Then the balabayas has to pay for the damage because he said he was going to watch it. Hizik. If it causes damage, pater, then the balabayas is going to be pater. Well, not the balabayas. The balashar is going to be pater because the balabayas took responsibility. It's causing damage to his property. So the owner of the ox is going to be pater. Gemara says hagufa kasha. What the Gemara is about to do here is called diyukim seisrim. It's because we gave two cases, so and each one is opposite the other. So the Gemara is going to say that from the first case, I would only know this. But if it would have been slightly different, then I would say differently. Then we take the second case. We say from this case, I would only say that. But if it would be slightly different, then it would be the other way. Turns out that the implications are contradictory. That's what the Gemara is about to do. It's going to do it. Diyukim seisrim. What each one says is perfect, but the implication from each one turns out to be contradictory. So let's take a look how this. The Gemara does this all the time, but Gemara says Haguf Kasha. Where was this? Amrit. You started off saying K'noich sharcha ushmare. Bring in your axe and you guard it. Is it chayev? Because the damaged owner of the axe is chayev. Huzak, if it gets damaged, then the owner of the courtyard is pater because he told him. Time adar malei shmarei. What's the reason why this is the halacha? Because he told him to watch it. The chayev balashar pater balachotzer, that the owner of the axe is obligated, is responsible. Owner of the courtyard is exempt. Stama. But if he didn't say anything, he just said come inside. He didn't say watch it or not watch it. He just said come inside. Then probably it would be the opposite. It would be chayev balachotzer. If it gets damaged, pater balashar, and the owner of the axe would not be responsible if it causes damage. Pastama. Then the owner of the courtyard would be responsible
So when
to
he said
put the damage.
he just said come in. He
The
didn't.
bestama makabel and tirusa, because when he said to come in, he meant that he was accepting on himself responsibility. Now, which opinion is that? That's the opinion of the Rabbanan, not Rebbe. Rebbe's opinion says he would have to specifically accept responsibility, but here we're saying it's automatic. He said, "Come in." It looks like it's automatic. Ema seifa. Let's say the next case of that brisa. Let your ox come in. Bring in your ox, and I'll guard it. Huzak. If it then gets damaged, chayev, the balachotzer has to pay. Hizik. If it causes damage, pater, the owner of the ox, is exempt from paying for those damages. Time adam alev and ishmereno. Who the mechayev balachotzer pater balashad. The reason why this is the case, this is the halacha, is because the guy says that I'm going to guard it. But if he doesn't say I'm going to guard it, then chayev balashar, then the owner of the ox has to guard it, and he's going to be responsible. Because just saying come in doesn't mean that he's accepting responsibility. Asim the Rebbe, that follows the opinion of Rebbe. It says that that he's not accepting responsibility until he says so clearly. Comes out that the implication of the first part of the brisa is the Rabbanan. The implication of the second part of the brisa is Rebbe. Rabbi Lazar says Tabra. You have to break this apart. You're right. It's a combination of two different opinions. Rav Amar Kula Rabbanan. Rav says no. The entire brisa is the Rabbanan. Now this is easy. I did the Nasav Reisha Shmarei Tanaseifa V'Niyah Shmrenu. The reason why you have a second part of the brisa that seems to allude to the opinion of Rebbe, that's only because the brisa was trying to be symmetrical with the first part of the brisa. The main brisa was the first part. Then in the second part, you said that you should watch it. So in the second part, it says, I'll watch it. That was just to be the opposite of the first part, but the main part was the first thing. That's Rabba's view. Rav Papa Amar Rabba says we could do it the opposite. We could say, Kula Rebbe. But he adds in some extra logic here. Say the whole thing is Rebbe. The Savala Reb Tarfon, but he also holds like Reb Tarfon. The Amar Keren b'chatzar nizik nezik shalim mishalim. It says that Keren, even if it's usually half payment, but if it's in the owner, if it's the damage is done in the victim's property, has to pay full payment. So what's going on over here is like this. Hilkach Amar le Shemarai. If he tells the owner of the ox, bring in your ox and you guard it, he's not giving him any area in the courtyard. And therefore, it means it's my courtyard. When he tells the owner of the ox, you guard it, What he's really saying is this courtyard is 100% mine. You have to guard your ox in my courtyard, which means it's a chatzar nizik. The Karen b'chatzar nizik, mishal nizik shalom, and that's why he has to pay full price if it causes damage. Lo yamalei shmari, but if he doesn't say to guard it, so then then he's actually giving him a location in the area. He's telling him, yeah, bring it in. Basically means, okay, that corner is yours, or whatever. So if that's the case, then it's a joint courtyard. And Karen, so the implication of the Reisha that he would be, the halacha would change if he doesn't say Shmaroi is not because it would be the Rabbanan. The reason why the halacha would change is because it would change whose ownership of the property it is, not because we're switching to the Rabbanan's opinion. It would be Keren b'chatzar hashutrim, and then it would only be half price. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Easy
Easy fast. Say slichas, extra davening.
Just before or
No.
Wait.
In the middle. Yeah.